Hello everybody. Today in this video I wanted to discuss something that was inspired by a friend of mine sending me these 4 vintage Purina knives. And it inspired me to think of a topic for the video today, which is uncollectible knives, or your uncollectible. Oh, okay, I can't do that. If I do that, I'll get in trouble. Anyway, regardless. So these are the uncollectibles. And as you can see, these poor things have seen better days. I have a feeling that if I were to try to, oh my god, restore any of these, I might be able to get one complete knife out of the pieces that are remaining. Some places there's like something resembling a good blade left, but yeah. So I looked these up online, and believe it or not, even in this incredibly terrible condition they're in, they're probably still worth $5 or $10 a piece, which is mind-blowing to me. And again, like I said, that's what inspired me to come up with this topic of uncollectible knives. And looking at those in that condition reminded me of another one I have in my collection, a case. This thing is in a brown bone, jigged, and has also seen better days. I picked it up at an antique store, I believe, if I recall, for like $2 or something, $3. Has had every single blade broken off. The end of it is just a downright amazingly abused knife. This one has even been reshaped and profiled to resemble a drop point sheep's foot Warncliffe. And this one, a tanto of some kind. Yeah, I find it interesting just to see how badly knives have been abused, and yeah, and somehow, even though it's not collectible, this has ended up in my collection, bringing me to another case knife in my collection, which I've mentioned before. This one is, or was rather, my grandfather's knife that I absconded with when I was rather young. It's seen better days as well, but I don't want to mess with fixing it or anything because it's got such sentimental value. And it stays in my collection. More knives that are really not really collectible that are in my collection. Oh, how about this wonderful blade play? Blade play, anyone? Wonderfully neon orange anodized aluminum seatbelt cutter with with a carbon razor blade that wasn't very good, and a serrated short. I'm sure that's got to be due to some legality. Blade carries in a tip down, which is actually an accomplishment, and has a steel glass breaker on the back of it. This thing was one of the first gas station knives I ever came across, and so it stays in my collection, even though it's not collectible. This, I'm sad to say, is my version of Nick Chavez's Zombie Hunter, except mine's in blue, and it's not a Zombie Hunter, it's a Master. Yeah, that's right, Master Ballistics. Actually still works as an assisted, has surprisingly good ergonomics in the hand, and is otherwise just a piece of crap. It can be front flipped. It can be Emersoned if you're pulling it out of your pocket, and you just bring it across like that. It's got a thumb disc and a flipper tab. Totally a crazy knife. And it stays in my collection because while I'll never have a Nick Chavez original Zombie Hunter, this just reminds me of it in a lot of ways, and so I hang on to it. We'll call it the skeleton knife. Stays in my collection. Another one of the early knives I had in my collection This is Schrade. Again, not super collectible. Only tip down carry. Left pocket. I don't know. This thing is just a weird knife. The blade though isn't that bad with that high flat grind. Probably I want to say 420 steel if I'm lucky. So another uncollectible in my collection. Bringing up something similar. Not a paraframe. You might think, oh my gosh, the paraframe. No. It's the Smith & Wesson Extreme Ops paraframe imitator. Actually flips out well. And yeah, I'll just not say anything more about that one. Another oddball in my collection that's probably not really collectible given the incredibly poor riveting construction that it has is this fruit knife from Imperial. I believe which is also Schrade basically. And I just like it because I don't have any fruit knives in my collection, so I hang on to it. Probably not the most collectible knife, but hey, it is what it is. And that's not to say that all of the worn out and used knives are not ones that I'll carry. I still carry this one, even though it's been sharpened and beat up, and I probably paid way too much money for it because you can buy them for $10. But whoever had it before me sharpened the heck out of it, and not necessarily the straightest sharpening job, although it is sharp. There you go, Allie. It stays in my collection because it makes me smile. It's not super collectible, but yeah, there it is. Here we have a micro Kershaw. This little son of a gun is a non-assisted thumb stud flipper with probably in 3 CR, maybe 5 CR, 7 CR if I'm extremely lucky. This came out of a blister pack of Kershaws, and when I added it all up, I think this thing probably cost $1. It stays in my collection even though it's not collectible because it's probably the best dollar knife I've ever seen. You can flip it, it's sharp, has good centering, has spacers on the back, its lockup is good. This thing, it's G10, this thing is ridiculously good for, I mean the blister pack was $9.99, and there were 2 other knives in the blister pack, both of which were significantly larger. So for this thing to be as good as it is for as cheap as it must have been, really makes me worry about all the other knives I paid a lot of money for. To tell you the truth. Stays in my collection. Same thing. Not collectible. Best value for $1 or maybe $2 I've ever seen in my life. And that brings me to the last of the uncollectibles. I would say, you know, the Daleka would qualify as an honorable mention, except it's super ultra collectible. Only among certain circles, if you will. Is this knife. This is the strangest lockback knife I've seen. This thing has been abused, used, tortured, sharpened. It's pinned together with what appears to be a nail or a screw, except that it kind of matches on the back, so I have no idea. The bone is frankly reminiscent of chicken bone. I have no idea what I'm looking at here. This thing, the main reason I have this is I saw it at a pawn shop for all of, I think, $2. And right before I had seen it, I had been watching one of Nick Chabez's Terrible Knives, and I swear to God, the clone of this knife was in that video. It's this exact knife. And so in honor of that, I bought it, and even though it's not collectible, it stays in my collection of uncollectible knives. So there you have it, the uncollectible collection. I hope you've enjoyed it. These are interesting knives. I know I have a few more floating around that are probably just as bad or worse. It just goes to show you what you end up with in your collection over the years. So don't be fooled by the higher end stuff. Everyone's got some of this in their collection too, I have a feeling. I hope you all have a wonderful day. This has been Patrick. Bye.